The Golden State Warriors. After acquiring Chris Paul, they might have the best offense in basketball. Now, that might be quite the hot take. I know that. But let me explain my reasoning, and I bet you'll understand. Before we get into it, if you enjoy, please leave a like as it really helps out. And if you really enjoyed, subscribe for more. Anyways, getting right into it. Obviously, the Warriors traded Jordan Poole for Chris Paul this offseason. Some people might think they're crazy, some people might think they're not, but it's clear now they want to go into win now mode, which is a good thing if you have Steph Curry on your team. Now, adding Chris Paul to this Warriors team will do huge things for their offense. Over the past few years, the Warriors have had a very amazing offense, obviously. And the crazy part is their offense rarely included the pick and roll, which is one of the best offensive sets in basketball. And they don't use it. Now, adding Chris Paul brings a very elite pick and roll ball handler. And it allows so many things to happen with this Warriors team that will make their offense amazing. And if you just see the things I come up with that Chris Paul will change for their offense, imagine what Steve Kerr and their coaching staff will come up with, or even some of these players themselves. Now, adding Chris Paul potentially moves Steph Curry off the ball. Now, that is the interesting part. We've seen him play off ball lots over his career. Maybe the past few seasons it has been down, but he still plays off ball occasionally. Now, Steph Curry off ball creates so many things. One, being a three-pointer for himself. After running from side to side on the court and around multiple screens, he can get a pretty solid look, or even provide an open look for his teammates. That's another thing, is his off-ball gravity. Even with his ball out of his hands, this guy requires the focus of the whole team, basically. Now imagine being a team guarding Steph Curry off the ball. You see him getting a pin down screen and he's running to the opposite corner. But on the other side of the floor, Chris Paul has the ball in his hands and he's getting a screen from another player, or he's attacking the person guarding him. Then at least one or two players have to focus on Chris Paul and what he's doing with the ball, and one or two players have to focus on Steph Curry off the ball, which will create lots of problems for defenses. They have to choose between a Steph Curry 3 and play created by Chris Paul, whether that's a layup, a pass from him to another player, or a pass from him to Draymond as his roll man, which I think will also be interesting. Obviously, Chris Paul is a great passer, so any roll man for him will be elite. But add in the fact that he could pass to Draymond, and then Draymond is also an elite roll man who can create an extra pass off of a help defender, whether that's a lob, a kick out to three, or he takes a layup himself, or he resets the offense. There's lots that could happen, but we do trust Draymond with the ball as the roll man, as well we really trust Chris Paul with the ball as the point. Another great thing that happens with adding Chris Paul is Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins, as well as most of the players on the roster, become even less of a focus for other teams' defense. Now, if Klay Thompson or Wiggins, either one of these guys, is your third or fourth worry on offense, that'll make things even easier for them, especially a great shooter like Klay Thompson. Now, thinking back to when Kevin Durant was with the Warriors, Klay Thompson was the third option, and he got a lot more open looks because of Kevin Durant and Steph Curry's gravity. Now, obviously, Chris Paul is not Kevin Durant, and he does not require as much attention as Kevin Durant. However, Chris Paul is a better passer than Kevin Durant, and he is also a solid enough scorer where teams have to pay attention to him with the ball. They can't just worry about the pass. Now, Klay Thompson, having even less of a role on offense with the ball, as well as Steph Curry moving off the ball, will make things even easier for himself, which means Klay Thompson could have another 20-point per game season. Don't know if he'll be an all-star. I think it would be more likely Andrew Wiggins is selected for an all-star team again, given he will be even less of a worry for teams, as well as he is a better defender than Klay Thompson. Current Klay Thompson, that is. So I think Wiggins can have another career season like he did a few years ago in Golden State. Last season, he had his own personal issues that prevented him from playing games. So hopefully this season he can bounce back. Potential all-star or all-star caliber season. Now adding the Chris Paul pick and roll creates a big thing for this Warriors team. And that is two different styles of offense. They've obviously had the motion offense over the last few years, which has been elite for them. Now imagine half the game they run that motion offense, and just as the defending team is getting the hang of it, or starting to get some stops back to back, they sub in Chris Paul, and he switches their offense completely from a motion offense that they were just struggling to figure out to now a pick and roll offense. Having these two styles of offense will make things harder for opposing teams, especially if they just randomly switch it up mid-game on them once they get the hang of their defense. Now they have to rethink everything and readjust. Now, obviously, the Warriors' offense this season will be one of the best in the league. I don't think there's any doubt about that. However, in order to be a top team in basketball, you not only need top offense, you also need a top defense. Now, Steve Kerr is a great coach. He's good at putting his players in spots they thrive. And I believe with defensive players like Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, Andrew Wiggins, and off the bench they have Gary Payton, DiVincenzo, Moses Moody even. All these players, if you plug and play them with certain offensive-minded players like Chris Paul or Steph Curry or Klay Thompson or Jonathan Kuminga or whoever, you can have a solid offense while maintaining an elite offense, which I think will be no problem for this team. I'm not saying they'll be the best defense in the league, but I will not be surprised if they are top 10, at the lowest top 15, which is middle of the league. I'm excited to see what Chris Paul can do alongside Jonathan Kuminga. Now, Kuminga is getting a little older. He's been in the league for a few years now, and he's never had a consistent chance to show what he's made of. He's had time in the G League, but in the league, he has not had a consistent role for over half a season that allowed him to improve. I think with Chris Paul on the team, that will be the perfect opportunity to unlock Kuminga and let him come off the bench and be a spark plug. Chris Paul in the pick and roll with Dario Saric. Imagine that. Spacing the floor. They just signed Dario Saric. They might bring in Dwight Howard. Saric is a stretch 5 who could fit well alongside Kuminga and Chris Paul pick and roll. This way we can unlock the cum bucket, and that'll be a scary thing for other teams. He's a very athletic, tall wing. If you have an athletic, tall wing who is good on offense and he's got the tools to be good on defense, that's a good thing for your team and a scary thing for other teams. Now back to the defense. There's rumors this team will start Draymond at the 5. If they do, they will be a very small team. However, most teams now have role-playing centers, which Draymond will be able to outplay, hopefully. Excluding Bam, Jokic, and Embiid, I think Draymond will be fine against most centers in the league. And Looney, off the bench, will hold down the defense and the rebounding, which will be good for this team. Or if he even starts, him, Draymond, Saric, and possibly Dwight Howard can be a solid 5 rotation, which was this team's biggest weakness over the past few seasons. However, they have such a good small ball game that it doesn't really matter if they have a solid 5-man rotation, as come playoff time, I expect Draymond and Looney to be the only 5s, maybe Saric, depending on the game and what they need in the moment. Now having Gary Payton, DiVincenzo, Andrew Wiggins, Moses Moody, even Jonathan Kuminga, if he can improve on the defensive end, he has the tools, but he's not quite there yet. These wings can really help their team defense, especially if Draymond and Kevon Looney can hold down the 5 position. Having a solid big man and wings is how you have a solid defense. Those are the two most important things. As long as those wings can obviously guard the perimeter very well. They will be enough to hold their team defense to a top 10, 15 defense, like I said. The key takeaways from this video is adding Chris Paul adds a variety to the offense the Warriors did not have. The next big thing is Draymond Green as the roll man and the 5. Having at least one of them on the floor at a time will help the Warriors. As last season we saw, when Draymond was on the bench, the Warriors team looked a lot worse. Draymond runs the floor for this team. He tells players what to do on offense and on defense. And if he can rest and Chris Paul can take in that position, then these role players will always know exactly what to do. And that'll unlock some of their role players like Kuminga, DiVincenzo, Wiggins. It'll help them be their best, as well as it'll help the Warriors be their best. Now, taking all this in, this is why I believe the Warriors will have a great season this year. And I also believe the Chris Paul trade went very under the radar for the Warriors team. A lot of people were hyping up Jordan Poole on the Wizards, as I'm sure he will have the best season of his career. I still think the Warriors made a good decision bringing in Chris Paul, as he will help this team out a lot. I'm excited to see what they can do with that. Anyway, that's all for today. If you made it this far, leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Peace.